Before I tell you what happened, let me ask you, have you ever been treated like an outsider in your own family, as if your years of sacrifice counted for nothing? Well, that's exactly what happened to me. And by the end of this story, you'll see why sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is simply taking your rightful seat. The dining hall glittered that evening, crystal chandeliers hanging overhead, silver cutlery gleaming under the light. It was supposed to be a family dinner, celebrating the anniversary of the company my late husband built. But as I walked in, I quickly realized something was off. The long mahogany table was beautifully set, fine china, candles, expensive wine. At the head of the table, a gold-embroidered placard read, "Reserved for the family." And when I looked for my name, it wasn't there. Instead, I found it scrawled at the very end, next to the server's station, where the waiters bustled in and out with trays. My chest tightened. I wasn't just being seated away from the family, I was being placed with the help. I turned to Rachel, my daughter-in-law, who was busy adjusting her diamond necklace. "There must be a mistake," I said quietly. She didn't even look up. "Oh no, that's not a mistake. We just thought, since you're not really part of the family business anymore, you'd be more comfortable down there." Not part of the family? The words stung worse than the placement itself. I had given them everything: my savings, my years of work, my sacrifices. And now, in the home I helped build, I was being told I was nothing but an accessory? I sat there for a moment, staring at the humiliating little card with my name on it. My fingers trembled, my pride burned. And then I stood up. If someone told you you weren't family anymore, would you swallow the insult quietly? Or would you make a move to remind them exactly who you are? Comment below. I want to know what you'd do. The murmurs started the moment I rose from my assigned chair at the end of the table. Forks clinked against china. Conversations faltered. I walked slowly, deliberately, past the rows of neatly seated relatives, my heels tapping against the marble floor like a gavel striking. Some tried to stop me with polite coughs or disapproving glances, but I didn't break stride. At the head of the table, the gold placard gleamed, "Reserved for the family." I reached out, lifted it between my fingers, and set it aside. Then, without hesitation, I lowered myself into the chair that had once belonged to my husband, the chair of authority, the chair of legacy. Gasps filled the room. Rachel's wine glass paused halfway to her lips. My son's face flushed crimson. "Mother," he hissed, his voice taut with embarrassment, "that seat isn't yours anymore." I folded my hands on the table, my voice steady but loud enough for everyone to hear. If you think a placard can erase 40 years of sacrifice, then perhaps you've forgotten who built this table in the first place. A ripple of unease spread across the family. Some avoided my gaze, others stared wide-eyed at the audacity of what I had just done. But deep down, I knew this wasn't audacity, it was reclamation. The silence that followed my words was heavy, so heavy you could hear the flicker of the candles on the table. Rachel leaned forward, her voice sugar-coated but sharp. "With all due respect, Claire, times have changed. We're the ones running the business now. You stepping back was your choice. This dinner is about the future. Our future. I met her eyes and smiled coldly. And who do you think made your future possible, Rachel? Who sold her home? Who drained her savings? Who worked through exhaustion so this family could have something to inherit? Gasps rippled through the room. A cousin shifted uncomfortably. My son's jaw tightened, but he didn't speak. She forced a laugh, trying to recover. Well, sacrifices are appreciated, of course, but we can't live in the past. Tonight, the seat at the head belongs to the ones shaping tomorrow. I leaned forward, folding my hands on the polished wood. So then it seems we have a problem, because that seat, I tapped the armrest, steady and deliberate, was not built by tomorrow. It was built by yesterday. And yesterday still has a voice. The tension broke into hushed arguments, aunts whispering to uncles, cousins stealing glances, and for the first time, I saw doubt flicker in their eyes, not about me, but about Rachel. She had tried to push me into the shadows. Instead, I had forced the spotlight onto her. The whispers around the table grew louder, forks scraping against plates as uneasy relatives shifted in their seats. Rachel smirked, clearly believing she had the upper hand. "That's enough theatrics," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "This isn't your world anymore, Claire. You're here as a guest, nothing more." I let the silence stretch. Then, with deliberate calm, I reached into my purse and pulled out a thick envelope. The sound of paper hitting wood was louder than any shout. "What's that?" my son asked, his voice sharp. "Proof," I said simply. Gasps circled the table as I slid the documents forward. Incorporation records, ownership shares, and financial agreements, all bearing my name. My late husband had signed them years ago, ensuring I wasn't just a bystander, but a co-owner. Her face paled. "That doesn't mean anything," she stammered. Harold, my husband's old attorney, had entered quietly and now stood at my side. His voice carried authority as he spoke. "It means everything. Mrs. Henderson isn't just family. Legally, she is the majority shareholder, which makes her seat not just symbolic, but rightful." The silence that followed his words was thick with shock. Cousins looked at me with new eyes. Aunts nodded subtly. Even those who had been on Rachel's side shifted uncomfortably, as if they realized they had bet on the wrong horse. I folded my hands calmly on the documents. "So, tell me again how I'm not family."
Without her consent can be challenged. Every contract, every expenditure, every deal. My son's face turned crimson. "Mom, you don't understand how the business works anymore. We've modernized. We've taken it further than Dad ever could." I leaned forward, sliding one of the highlighter reports from the folder toward him. "Modernized? Is that what you call funneling company money into personal luxuries? Trips, dinners, and jewelry? Like that $7,000 ring on your mother-in-law's finger?" The room erupted into murmurs, gasps, heads swiveling toward Patricia. Her hand instinctively covered the ring, but the damage was already done. One of the board members cleared his throat. "If what Mrs. Henderson is saying is true, this isn't just family drama. This is mismanagement." Rachel's smile faltered. My son tried to speak, but his words stumbled. For the first time, I saw something I hadn't in years. Hesitation. Doubt. And in that hesitation, I knew the tide was turning. The dining hall, once buzzing with chatter and clinking glasses, now felt like a courtroom. The silence was heavy, broken only by whispers as relatives exchanged uncertain glances. Finally, my nephew spoke up. He's right. Aunt Claire is family. If she still owns the company, then her place is here. His words drew nods from a few cousins, but not everyone agreed. My son slammed his hand against the table, rattling the cutlery. You don't understand the work it takes to run things now. Mom hasn't been in charge for years. Rachel and I have kept it afloat while she sat back. An uncle muttered, kept it afloat, or bled it dry. Heads turned sharply toward him. The documents Harold had presented lingered in everyone's minds like smoke that couldn't be cleared. Rachel's voice cut through, trembling with fury. So what? Paperwork doesn't change the fact that you've been absent. You haven't run a board meeting in years. You're just careful, Harold interrupted, his voice calm but edged with steel. She isn't just anything. She is the majority shareholder, which means every decision you've made without her consent can be challenged. Every contract, every expenditure, every deal. The dining hall, once buzzing with chatter and clinking glasses, now felt like a courtroom. The silence was heavy, broken only by whispers as relatives exchanged uncertain glances. Finally, my nephew spoke up. He's right. Aunt Claire is family. If she still owns the company, then her place is here. His words drew nods from a few cousins, but not everyone agreed. My son slammed his hand against the table, rattling the cutlery. You don't understand the work it takes to run things now. Mom hasn't been in charge for years. Rachel and I have kept it afloat while she sat back. An uncle muttered, kept it afloat, or bled it dry. Heads turned sharply toward him. The documents Harold had presented lingered in everyone's minds like smoke that couldn't be cleared. Rachel's voice cut through, trembling with fury. So what? You'd rather believe her over us? She's clinging to the past. She doesn't know the first thing about leading in the modern world. But her words didn't land the way she'd hoped. I saw it in their faces, cracks forming in their loyalty. The more she spoke, the more defensive she sounded, and the more the room shifted. I leaned back in the head chair, not needing to raise my voice. My silence spoke louder than their shouting. For years, they had pushed me aside. Tonight, they were the ones scrambling to hold their ground. The tension was so sharp, you could almost hear it crackle in the air. Relatives whispered, forks clinked nervously against plates, but all eyes stayed fixed on me. I let them stew in their own noise for a moment. Then, I pushed my chair back ever so slightly and stood up. My voice was calm, but it carried through the hall with a strength that silenced every whisper. Enough, I said. This family has lived under the illusion that respect is optional, that sacrifices can be ignored, that legacy can be rewritten with a placard on a table. I picked up the envelope of documents Harold had placed before me and spread them across the polished wood. One by one, board members and relatives leaned forward, the words "majority shareholder" highlighted in black ink, staring them in the face. Starting tonight, I continued, my hand pressing firmly against the papers, every decision regarding this family's business and this family's name will go through me. If you want to call me irrelevant, if you want to call me an outsider, fine, but do not forget, outsiders don't hold controlling shares. Rachel's face was pale, her carefully rehearsed smile crumbling. My son shifted uncomfortably, but he said nothing. He knew better now. I sat back down in the head chair, slowly and deliberately. This time, no one dared to argue. The table, that once radiated unity, now split like a cracked mirror. You could see the lines forming, the quiet shift of chairs, the way glances darted across the room. My nephew, still bulled from earlier, placed his glass down and said firmly, Aunt Claire's right. She carried this family when no one else would. If anyone deserves that seat, it's her. Several cousins nodded in agreement. their murmurs of support emboldening him. But across the table, Rachel's sister scoffed. Don't be naive. Running a company isn't about nostalgia. It's about progress. Aunt Claire's time has passed. That single comment sparked a wave of arguments. Some sided with me, pointing out the sacrifices I had made and the proof Harold had brought. Others clung to Rachel and my son, muttering about fresh ideas and the modern way. The chandelier light above flickered as if the room itself was restless, reflecting faces that no longer looked like family, but opponents in a quiet war. And in the middle of it all, I sat at the head, silent and still, because I knew something none of them did. This fracture wasn't a weakness. It was leverage. The longer they fought among themselves, the stronger my position became. If your family split in front of you, half supporting you, half against, would you try to calm everyone down or let the divide deepen until the truth revealed itself? Drop your answer below. I want to hear how you'd handle it.